When Kiriko was first shown in the early stages of Overwatch 2, Blizzard advertised her as a mobile, Genji-esque support hero with high DPS, and they even self-proclaimed her as the support hero for DPS players. But it didn't take long for the player base to discover that her damage wasn't actually her strong suit. Her best playstyle was to heal bot to charge ult and win the fight through Kitsune. But now 6 months later, and after various nerfs to that side of Kiriko's kit, it's not as clear anymore how she really should be played. That's what I want to get into today. I want to go through Kiriko's kit and abilities, where she's strongest, and how you should be playing her to rank up your games. Kiriko has the only weapon in the game that triples for critical hit damage, 40 to the body and 120 to the head. At all times as Kiriko, you need to be looking for opportunities to weave in critical hits downfield. Hitting a few in a row on DPS or supports can turn a fight incredibly fast. However, since the kunais are a projectile, unless an enemy is right in your face, you've got to lead your target. As you're trying to land these shots, aim ahead of where you think your target's going to be going, not right where they are in that moment. For example, if a soldier or Kree stepped out from cover and took some damage, it's most likely they'll be strafing back to cover. Predict this and take advantage by firing shots down the area they'll be crossing, not just straight at them. Kiriko can also be great for pressuring more stationary characters like Hanzo, Widow, or Ana. Be cautious, especially when peeking the first two, but by quickly poking in and out of cover and throwing kunais down their line of sight, you can push them off the angle that they're trying to take. However, like I said, dealing critical damage as Kiriko is important. It's not her primary focus. She's still a support, and you gotta focus on healing your team. Position yourself in order to most optimally heal your team and find ways to weave in damage from that position, not the other way around. Going off yourself trying to get picks will more often result in someone on your team dying due to you not being there than you yourself landing a kill. Keep in mind that the healing Ofudas are gold when they lock onto teammates, and the range is identical to the teleport range. And similar to Baptiste, make sure you're weaving kunais in with your healing to maximize her value. But like I said, position yourself with healing in mind first, which segues nicely into where you should be positioned when playing Kiriko. Now, because of Kiriko's mobility, this is actually very flexible, more flexible than most other supports, but it does depend on what your team is playing. Most importantly, who your other support is. If your support duo is playing a character like Mercy that wants to stay up and away from the fight with the DPS, then position yourself to be able to heal your tank safely, as that'll be mainly your job. But if you're playing with an Ana, then you might want to take more of a Mercy role and stay closer to your damage players. Utilize her wall climbing to hop up on the high ground whenever it's practical. And another thing I really like to do as Kiriko is position myself somewhere that forces the enemy team to look away into my direction. Then once I've soaked up some attention and maybe even a cooldown or two, I'll teleport back to my team. A great example of this is defending first point from the little left alley on Junkertown. I'm in a spot that I can still heal my team, but in order for the enemy to deal with me, they have to commit in the opposite direction. Then you can pop right back over to your allies with teleport. Kiriko has the best escapability in the game, but she can still be caught out by stuns and one-shots just like anybody else. Continue on the topic of teleport. Let's discuss when you should be using it and when you shouldn't. Remember that teleport also acts as a self-cleanse and sometimes should be used just for that purpose. Don't be afraid to do a pointless teleport positionally if it'll cleanse an anti-nade or an Ash Dynamite off you. But at the same time, be mindful of whether or not you actually need it. Just like any other support, once your cooldowns are burned, she feels extremely vulnerable and you're forced to win duels and play cover to survive. Use teleport as either a dive tool to stay with your aggressive tank or damage player, or as a last resort escape tool. Keep yourself alive by cycling TP and Suzu. Try to never have them both on cooldown, especially mid-fight. Also, TPing to an ally that's just about to die and Suzuing immediately can be extremely clutch to save them, but often it just results in you both dying. If you're gonna make that emergency save attempt, you gotta be confident that the two of you will come out on top, otherwise it's just feeding more ult charge into the enemy. Regarding Suzu, I'm gonna continue the common theme of not wasting your cooldowns when playing support. I'll bring this up in every video I make, but a wasted Suzu or any other defense cooldown is the difference between winning and losing a team fight. Don't waste Suzu on allies or yourself when it's not needed. Just because your tank is purple doesn't mean you instantly need to cleanse them. Assess the situation and determine whether or not they're actually in danger of dying. Save your strongest cooldowns for when it's absolutely needed, not just cause there's something to cleanse. Pay attention to what ultimates are coming online for the enemy and how you're going to use Suzu to escape it or save your allies. There's a handful of ultimates in the game that you can save yourself and your team from every time if you learn the timing. Orisa you can escape if you just wait until you're about 2/3 out the circle, then Suzu to finish walking the rest. Diva you can Suzu just before her bomb explodes, and Sigma you can throw Suzu straight downwards to land below you just before you hit the ground. Or if you're near a wall, you can splash it off as you're landing. Sigma's especially is difficult to time, but if you master it, you can survive practically every flux attempt. But Suzu can be used aggressively as well to help enable your allies. Keep an eye for heroes like Reaper or Rhine and when they're gonna ult. Suzu them to protect them from all the cooldowns that'll fly their way. Cassidy is another that can greatly benefit from cleanse during his high noon. The support cast as a whole is so much about staying aware of what cooldowns or what ultimates are going to be coming your way and position yourself accordingly to defend with your own cooldowns. Alright, let's talk about Kitsune Rush, which isn't near as strong as it was on launch, but it's still one of the most powerful ults in the game. The timing of Kitsune can be tricky though. When used too early, the enemy can just easily avoid it, and if used too late, it's most often not going to save your team the fight. What you want to look for is using Kitsune right at the cusp of the full fight breaking out. Once tanks or damage players have dove in and initiated, or the Rhyme players are brawling out on the front line, that's when you want to use Kitsune, since it'll either force the enemy to back up and sacrifice space, or fight within the Kitsune Rush, which is almost always a guaranteed loss. Kitsune can be comboed with certain ults, the best of these probably being Soldier's Visor, but honestly, I don't really recommend relying on this or setting it up the same way Ana's use Nano. I think it's more important to use Kitsune when it's most advantageous for your whole team to rush forward together, not just trying to time it for one player. And honestly, most of the time when Kitsune is up, if the opposing team tries to stay in and fight, your team is going to win the majority of these scenarios anyways. Also, it feels very natural to drop Kitsune and just start bombing kunais down lane. But remember, the ult applies to your healing speed as well. Kitsune definitely doesn't compare to Trans or Sound Barrier as a defensive ult, but think of it the way Moira's use Coalescence. You can use it to heal up your team quickly and then start getting aggressive. But don't use Kitsune as a panic ult, because like I said, it most often won't save you or your team. It's a setup ultimate, more similar to BAP window than anything. Communicate with your team that you'll be dropping it so they can be ready in your line of sight to gain the benefits. Kiriko has one of, if not the highest skill cap for the support role, but you don't need to be hitting criticals all the time in order to play her efficiently. Master using her mobility so that you can get optimal angles to heal and damage simultaneously. Cycle your cooldowns so you can always have an escape tool, and set up Kitsune with your team to take space away from the enemy. Hey, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I appreciate anybody who subscribes. Take care. Peace.